We would like to thank our sponsor, Island Savings. Island Savings, a division of member-owned cooperative First West Credit Union, provides banking, borrowing, and investment services for residents and businesses across Vancouver Island and the Southern Gulf Islands. Island Savings brings innovative products, an extensive branch network, and local decision-making to the banking experience.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Business Matters presented by Island Savings, a division of First West Credit Union. I'm your host, Rob Capello. Today, we're stepping up to the plate with Jim Swanson, a major player in the world of baseball in BC. Jim is a managing partner of Victoria HarbourCats and the Night Owls. And he just mentioned to me there's another team. He's wearing the shirt. He's got the logo there. And they're called what, Jim? The team's
the Victoria Golden Tide of the Canadian Colleges Baseball Conference. So we use Camosun and UVic students, and we put together a collegiate team that allows kids to stay in Canada, stay home, and get great education and play in a great city like Victoria. So
love it. So thank you. We'll explore that. So we're going to explore your career in baseball, the impact of the teams in the community. That's what I want to chat about as well, and a little bit about your personal journey as well. So I'd like to start. I was doing some research. So you've been with the Victoria HarbourCats for a decade now. So I'm curious, what are some of the changes you've seen over the last decade? What are some big developments you've seen? Maybe shifts in the team or the community, or like what are some things that really stand out for you over that time?
Everything's more expensive. That's pretty much the biggest one. I mean, literally, that actually is the biggest change. I mean, there have been changes that have impacted what we do with the HarbourCats in Victoria, and now the Night Owls, 2 years going into third year in Nanaimo. Around COVID, there was actually a move in minor league baseball. Major League Baseball wanted to cut a lot of its costs. That's going to be a theme maybe here. But they actually they killed off 41 minor league baseball. They had 41 or 42 minor league baseball teams.
Wow.
So what that did was pretty much eliminated one entire layer of the development system for players.
Right.
And what it essentially did was give our level of collegiate summer development a huge boost in that we were already a part of the system, but it essentially said to players, stay in college longer. More of you should be going to college than signing out of high school as drafted players out of high school. Go to college longer and use these great opportunities. And one of the things Major League Baseball actually even did was set up, in order to, I think, to appease a few owners in the east side of the continent, they set up something called the Major League Baseball Draft League, which was a summer league for college players.
Interesting.
Promising them better looks with scouts and everything like that. And of course, I'm not sure that's been the case, but it's been a floundering league. So we've been, I think we've seen and leagues, the better leagues like ours. There's a bunch of leagues like the West Coast League, but the Cape Cod always got great players. The Northwoods League has always gotten great players in this, and the same with our league. But I think we're seeing great players in more of the collegiate summer baseball leagues. I don't really have to do that much to fill a roster. I mean, we're trying to win, so we're in a competitive recruitment situation. So we're trying to put together the best teams that we can to. I'd love Nanaimo and Victoria to meet in the playoffs every year. That's what drives me on recruiting. Then of course I want one of those teams to win the championship, and Victoria's come very, very close 3 times. So that in terms of changes on the fan-facing side, that would be the biggest. Is that that change in minor league baseball led to probably even a more robust level of baseball player across the board in terms of depth. We always got the top guys, but now we're getting more guys.
That's interesting. And maybe along the line of increased costs, I think one thing that's important probably is having those community partnerships to kind of help. And I was looking again, and I saw there's a few of those in both areas, but maybe can you share some examples of sort of the partnerships you guys have and what they look like from a community perspective?
Well, I mean, Island Savings. I mean, to be honest, Island Savings has been and that's not just because of the podcast that we're doing here, but an absolute shining star. I mean, partnerships are everything in business. They just are. business is not my background. I think we're going to get into that here later, but so I'll explain that later. But when you have the ability to create, honestly, this is a little emotional one for me, because during COVID, especially, we were dark for 2 years.
Right.
The first business to step up and say, "How are you guys doing?" was Island Savings. The first ones to reach out and ask, and they didn't do it there was no vulture,
right?
There was nothing like that. They wanted to see us come out the other side. I can tell you there were levels of government that wanted to see us come out the other side, that reached out in certain ways that I don't want to say was it potentially inappropriate, but I think it was out of care, and I appreciate that. They didn't want to see the HarbourCats go away. They didn't want to see the attempt to put this into Nanaimo stop. Civic governments, provincial, and even to some level federal, were extremely helpful. But I can tell you that, Kendall Gross personally took an interest from Island Savings, took a personal interest in the HarbourCats and the Night Owls moving forward. Jesse Honkinen, Charlie, I mean, I could name people, going on and on with Travis and Ted, and people who really, really cared on what we did. So the partnerships part of what we do has always been important, and I think COVID drove it home how much it was. So if there's anything that we're proud of, it's the ongoing multi-year commitments that we have with partners to not just be part of what we are, but they see so many different ways of valuing what we do, because we have a pretty unique business. It's a way that they can bring their clients involved. It's a way that they can have their staff members involved. It's a way that they can get, profile for their business. It's a way they can get ROI on what they spend in terms of working with partners. We're not a charity. We're not we're a business. We don't have a society number. You don't get a you don't get a
tax receipt.
A tax receipt for writing a check that comes to us to help us operate, and we need the funds from that. It's 45 to 50% of our business is through the partnerships that we need. Yes, tickets is our currency, of course. Tickets to games and bums and seats, and paid bumps and seats is the biggest thing. We need people to. It's one thing to, if somebody gets a free ticket to come to a game, we just want them to know why they got the free ticket. We want them to understand it's because Island Savings is a massively engaged partner with us and wants you, Johnny or Sally, to be able to go to the game on them and to realize why you go to the game. So I think, free tickets seems to have been the way that some maybe competing sports businesses have they leave tickets on a park bench and hope that it's going to fill the place up, and it's not going to be a sustainable business model,
absolutely
at all. And I because I study the market, obviously, and we're in a competitive situation with everybody else that's in this kind of line of work in on the island, especially. And I happen to believe that we are the viable operation. Others in a challenging situation, but the partnerships long term. Coca-Cola, our beer deals, Molson, Red Arrow here in Victoria, in Nanaimo, Longwood Brewing Company, Kirby Source for Sports, things that make a lot of sense. Wilson's Transportation, obviously there's a supply need there. Our hotel deals, I get a significant meeting coming up in Nanaimo around our hotel deals, and I'm excited. So all those things, and you have to cover all your tracks. You have to cover all your needs, and you have to get yourself to a point where you can not just trust those relationships and count on those relationships, but honestly, I've got friendships out of those relationships that are really my social circles, and it has nothing to do with the selfishness of, I'm glad that they write a check to us every year. We are on the same level, on the same wavelength when it comes to what we think the community needs, and what we think is good for Victoria, Nanaimo, Vancouver Island, and what it is that makes our lives worth living. And part of it is the ability to celebrate together and be at a sporting event like a baseball game.
100%.
Unoffensive. Baseball's not there's no fighting going on. There's nobody punching anyone in the head. There's none of that going on. it's on a warm summer day, if it's raining, and we just say we'll go again tomorrow. That's kind of a thing. So we appreciate those relationships, because they are, having and nurturing those relationships is such a key part of what we do.
There's no fighting unless you're Texas and Houston in the playoffs.
And you know what? I would have thrown a pitch at that guy too.
Yeah, that's right.
An hour and a half to cross around the bases on that one. If he didn't realize he was going to be wearing one in the ribs.
Yeah,
it's another story.
So you mentioned, so before you're one of your backgrounds is you're in media. So you're the sports editor up in Prince George for, I think, over 13 years for the Prince George Citizen. And I was curious, did that, like your background in journalism, have you taken anything out of that background in journalism and brought it into managing baseball? Like how did those, not necessarily how did they intersect, but did you find anything there that you're bringing with you today when you're managing the teams?
Yeah, there's actually two ends to that spectrum, right? So one end is that I, just in a meeting with our accountant the other day, and I reminded him I'd never taken a business class in my life. Actually, I did fail Econ 111 in university the first time I took it, but that's not a lie either. I was 20 years in the media. Right. People here, because I've been here 10 years. Right. The 20 years previous, I guess people don't realize I was the Cleve Dean saw from, the Times Colonist. I covered the Prince George Cougars for 14 years. And I covered the Western Hockey League for 20 years, pretty much. And, I was a columnist, I was a writer, face for television, face for newspaper. I was actually on television for a while, even with this face, believe it or not, but did a lot of broadcasting, a lot of radio, enough TV to say I did it. And, I think just the probably the biggest skill from my media. I mean, I bring a lot of writing skills, which I'm to bring to the table. I think they bring benefit to the businesses, but although AI does all that stuff for you now, and it's crazy that I just tried that last week and went, this is nuts.
It is pretty crazy. Yeah,
it is. I'm still shying away from it, but the biggest thing, I think, when you're in media and you have to go after a story, you can't be afraid to pick the phone up and call and talk to somebody. You've got to be willing to talk to the people involved, whether you agree with their standpoint, whether you agree with their side. You've got to be able to take a neutral approach enough to be able to get that started. And where it branches from there is how a story is developed. I mean, that's the nature of media, and probably why I get so ticked off at people accusing media of being one side or the other these days, because the real good ones aren't. The good ones know exactly how to follow along and make a story. That's not the case with some extreme media, but my media training, my media time, and for 20 years, and I'm proud I did it. I wouldn't want. I mean, newspapers are dying all over the place. Kamloops just lost a newspaper the other day. Can't believe Kamloops, 100,000 people doesn't even have a newspaper anymore.
No newspaper.
What a changing landscape. And I think the media part has helped me in a couple of ways. Number one, that mindset and how you formulate businesses and relationships is very similar, and I didn't realize it, but I'm gotten to know that. But I also think that it helped me to have some inroads in the Victoria market, because there were so many people in the media who happen to not be in the media much anymore. There's been so many changes in the landscape
absolutely
here. My goodness. All the lead anchors, I mean, Czech and CTV Island don't even do sports anymore.
Nope.
It's regular sportscast. The Times Colonist is probably still the strongest newspaper in Canada almost. Right. And yet, you see some of the shrinking number of people and different things like that going on, which is hard to watch and to some degree, but I'm glad they're still going and making it work.
Yeah.
That media piece, I think has stood me in good stead. And, I think it also helps when it comes to, quick asks of radio interviews or live hits or whatever it is. We're not afraid to do those things. And I think it's helped us to give a proper presentation to the public of what we do. And I think it gives us integrity. And I think it's because we operate with integrity. That's what we're all about. And I don't want to be anything different.
Interesting. So I'm curious how that transition from journalism to baseball ownership came about. So how did that opportunity for the HarbourCats come together for you?
Yeah, so I mean, the long story short is in Prince George, we were doing some fairly major events. And
Okay.
what people also probably don't realize about me here is that I was coaching at an international level. I was working with the Blue Jays and some things. I
Right.
nearly landed a front office job with the Blue Jays
Mm.
about 12 years ago, I guess it was.
Okay.
We put on major events. We put on a world event. We put on Western Canadians, provincials, nationals. And I was coaching, a little bit of playing, but that ended when I was getting older. So uh, basically the first year here, the original team owner, John McLean, who really had his heart and everything in the right place, brought in a front office, and it was led by a young lady from the United States. He wanted to bring in an American for integrity on the game of baseball. I think he wanted to, be a bit of a trailblazer in hiring a female executive. And it had nothing to do with that. It just didn't work.
Right.
It had nothing to do with her being female, and
Right.
nothing really to do with her being American. It just, the mix of the whole thing didn't work. And
Yeah.
at the end of the year, they parted ways. Whether that was a quit or a firing, it depended who you asked, I guess, at the time. But that owner, John, he started to ask some people around baseball circles in BC if there was anybody that would be, or even Canada, that would be a good fit, because he hadn't really found anybody in Victoria he thought was a fit or a natural for it. And so I got a phone call out of the blue, basically asking me, what do you think of Victoria and baseball? And I was way up north at the time. I'd left the newspaper. I was working for TELUS.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And it was a snowy, cold day up in Fort St. John where I was working today. And, asking about Victoria and baseball was warmed my heart a little bit. It didn't take much to get me thinking about the opportunity. And a few weeks later, after a visit down here to Victoria, and I'd never even seen it at Royal Athletic Park, and I'd never even seen it. So
wow.
I agreed to sign on, and then about a year later, John went through some, I call them personal financial challenges, that he ended up losing control of the team in kind of a court situation that there's nothing illegal. It's a corporate court situation. So I think he regrets losing the team to this day, because he's excited. I think he keeps track. I hear from him every once in a while. And so in order to get out of a fairly significant debt and questionable situation, myself, my brother Ken Swanson, our friend Rich Harder, who's from New Westminster, and John Wilson went together to form what we kind of call the core four of our ownership group. So the four of us. And then I think about a year into the COVID situation, we started to explore the opportunity of bringing on additional partners, and we had an additional 6 partners, so we went to 10. One has since backed away, so we're at 9. But people like Helen Edwards and oh my goodness, Mike McDonnell. Exciting to have them as part of this. Helen is just such an eager beaver, excited baseball. You used to be part of the ownership group of the Vancouver Canucks. It's just so great to hear her stories and these stories you don't know about people that are walking amongst us, right? And, she just doesn't look the part at all. She doesn't walk around with any kind of an airs on her whatsoever. But you get her talking about her excitement and the HarbourCats and the West Coast League and the Golden Tide and the Night Owls, and she just lights up, and it's fun to watch.
Interesting. So the league itself is really competitive. So I'm curious, how do you prepare for the season? Is the off season where you make or break the season? Is that a silly question to say? Is that a silly statement, or is that true in the league or any sport?
Yeah, for sure. It's a curious mix of, we're trying to catch our breath a little bit. And I mean, during the season, there's not a day off. There's no day off, pretty much from late April until the end of August. It's taking a day off is very rare. Schedules got to align perfectly to have that happen. But now is when we're doing recruiting. I woke up this morning and at 5 a.m. I had an email from a network source that we have for players in Asia that was suggesting a couple of players. We're not going to take either of them. They're not. I just don't see that happening. We're talking to Division I coaches. The recruiting process really is, we look for the best local players who can play at this level. I mean, and some years that's a good number, and some years it's a lower number.
Fair enough.
And then we look for returning players who wanted to come back, who we can get them to come back. We like to have continuity and stability. And then we start working our Division I sources. And this is a Division I league. The position players, the best position players in our league are playing Division I college baseball with UCLA and University of Washington and Oregon State and University of Hawaii, Illinois State, places that we've worked very closely with. And the pitchers might be a little bit more spread amongst the college ranks, but because they're just taking it so easy on college arms these days, and they don't want to overpitch anybody and pitch counts and all that stuff. But so we do that. And I would say this, that here we are on, what are we, October the 23rd here. Talking. Is that okay that I said that? I know it's going to come out later, but
no, it's all good.
I would say that we have enough roster for Victoria and Nanaimo to more than play a season right now. So we will start to tinker between now and the end of May. And the players start to show up. We'll have injuries. Guys will have academic issues. There'll be family issues. We lost a guy to Mormon missions one year, late before the season. Just one guy decided to go play football. A whole bunch of different reasons come up. So we have to have some backup plans. But for the most part, we'd be ready to go with the roster if we had to do it now. And then you're doing things like ordering uniforms and baseballs and making sure you got a bat order ready to go. And there's more and more ordering you need to do from China when it comes to merchandise and team gear and things like that. So like our new era caps, which is the model to where you've got to be ordering those 6-7 months in advance. So that's something I actually hope to have done this week. and then it's, of course, even bigger than all that is touching base with all our corporate partners and being in touch with everybody in that way and having things ready to go, because we're producing pocket schedules. The schedule's going to come out soon. We have been on the league's All-Star game. We're hoping to be able to host that this year.
That's awesome.
I don't know where that's going to go. Our league can be a curious league sometimes when it comes to determining some of those things. But we're certainly ready, and we think that Victoria in particular is the best place for our league to host a showcase like an All-Star game with
the
waterfront, the size of the facility, and the way we operate our business. So we're excited to try and do that.
So you're running the team for a while, and you're like, I got some spare time, so we're going to launch a team in Nanaimo. So talk a little bit about that process. How did that come together? I mean, I definitely see there must be a great rivalry between the teams, which is awesome. Like, I think that I see the value there. But now you're managing two teams in the same league that are literally a few hours apart. How did that process come together?
Yeah, there's actually some really good cost benefits to it as well. Like, we have coverage for each team when people are taking holidays or something like that. We can have people that we can forward the phones, right? We can do things like that. There's some cost savings on travel. There's some cost savings on purchasing. There's some cost savings on just some of those logistics. But what we do have is a completely separate recruiting process for both teams. I've got 2 separate coaching staffs. I've heard from both of them this morning already in different areas, and literally the only person that knows the 2 rosters and what's building is me. I'm the only one who has access to both of those files. Our coaches and our people in Victoria have access to one file, and our coaches and our people in Nanaimo have access to another file that shows the players, so they don't even know. Now, so how that process came to be, I was actually on the league's expansion committee for, 5 years, something like that. And I mean, there was an uncomfortable part of being in that process, and that one of the members of that committee, found out later he was actually got himself on the committee to hopefully find a way to find somebody he could sell his team to, which I didn't think that was fair game.
No.
That's not the reason you do it, but it's turned into some okay things in the league and the way that turned out for sure. But I was openly candidating for somebody to move into Nanaimo. I took a number of different people advocating for people to put, not candidating. We candidated later, when nobody seemed to want to take it on, and nobody seemed to see the vision that I guess I thought I could see with it, and some others in Nanaimo could see. Nobody wanted to take it on. I finally went to our group and said, "Why don't we do it?" And they went, "Are you nuts?" And I went, "Yeah, maybe I am, but it's an hour and 15 up the road for me when
Yeah.
my wife's a teacher here in Victoria, so I'm going to be the one who does the driving, not her."
Yeah.
So we're up and down. I spend a lot of time in Nanaimo. I spend a couple of days a week, pretty much year round, if not more. Victoria's running, well. We've got a pretty good idea what we're doing here, and good people and experienced and veteran people. But yeah, it really was a product of a number of things having to come together like any business. You're talking about developing something, it's you got to get permits, you got to get whatever. Well, for us, it was working with the city of Nanaimo and working with the stakeholder groups. And, most of the stakeholder groups have been really good. There's, always going to be a pocket or two that maybe don't like a new idea, but, or aren't going to be, kind of at the same mindset. But the city of Nanaimo has been unbelievable. And, they put in about $8 million of work into a recreation area behind NDSS, just down from VIU.
Wow.
That's into a brand new track, new lighting, new turf for a big field, a whole new reset. And of course, that meant some baseball stuff too, which is a brand new set of lights, which the park never had.
Yeah.
New fencing, a whole new skirting on it, a new ticket booth that was just put in place. We put in the new PA system ourselves. We put in new seating ourselves. Put in new point of sale systems ourselves. We did a whole bunch of work to a room in there that's turned into our office and our storage area. It's actually working quite well, except that it's not much for foot traffic.
Right.
But you have to come to Soroxman. If you've been to a game at Royal Athletic Park at Wilson's Group Stadium or RIP, Soroxman Stadium is wholly different, and that's the beauty of baseball. Like Fenway is a holy field, Yankee Stadium, they're all so different.
Right.
And what's odd is that RAP was rebuilt in 1967, which makes it old. But it served a really strong test of time, and we like it. We like its flexibility. We like that we can expand to 5,000 people.
Right.
We like the amenities for the most part. There's things we would obviously like to improve, but that's the nature of living we do that in our houses, right?
100%.
We'd like to do that, but the part about Nanaimo that's interesting is it feels older. Like it feels turn of the other century type of ball. It was built in 1974 to 76, and Mickey Mantle, Bob Euchre, Jimmy Pearsall, Johnny Busick, did I say that already? George Reed, all these guys were there for a sportsman's dinner, and they opened the park. So everybody always says that Mickey Mantle opened the park. Well, the funny story is they actually wanted to wait to let Mickey hit the first home run at the park to say that he did.
Oh my gosh.
Mickey was so drunk he couldn't and he couldn't get one out of the infield. So
my gosh.
It's just part of the lore of it, right? And Mickey, Mickey's book and his life, he's pretty open about his alcoholism. So it's not, I don't feel like I'm telling a nasty story on a guy I'm telling that, but when you see the pictures, you're like,
that's funny.
Dude's hammered right there. So
it's one of the parks he didn't hit a home run at. So
he did not hit a home run there. He didn't even come close. So it's just great to know that kind of history is there. And when you're there, it just kind of oozes. This is a baseball park.
Yeah.
And not that RAP isn't, because it's a great place and a great space. But you can't go to Soroxman Stadium and watch a ball game there, or play a ball game, or be a team that comes in to visit there, or be one of the Night Owls players.
Right.
You can't go to that park and forget what it was like.
Yeah,
it's just one of those places. And we put a bar in center field, and right on the field, we put a secondary fence in. It's fantastic. It's one of the best places to watch a game. And so the whole Nanaimo thing has been, I just tip my cap to, the council, Leonard Krogh, who I just find is such an amazing leader in that community, and really in municipal circles, for his approach on many different topics. We could go off on a tangent on that, but I think Leonard has done a fantastic job, and the support that we've had from Richard Harding, who's the head of Parks and Rec there, to his staff has been it's been amazing, and we have a good relationship with the city of Victoria too. Nanaimo had to take a lot more strides in order to have the West Coast land there, and it's been amazing to see how that's played out.
I'm interested, like, if you've mentioned sort of the experience people have at the park, for people that haven't come to a game yet, can you speak a little bit what you can expect? Like, and I'm sure people understand baseball, I get it, but what you can expect sort of at a game. And the other part of that question is, this is is it considered a development league? And if it is, what are some of the success you've seen? Have any of the players that come through the league, do we know the names in the major leagues? Like, can you speak a little bit about both sides? So experience what you see the game and the type of player we're seeing on the field.
Houston Astros last night had a reliever who played in our league. Adley Rutschman, the best young catcher in baseball, played in our league. Nick Pivetta, Boston Red Sox starting pitcher. Spent some time in the bullpen this year. Amazing pitcher. He threw the very first pitch in Victoria HarbourCats history. Andrew Vaughn, who's a rising star in Major League Baseball for the White Sox, played for the Victoria HarbourCats. So there's, I believe our league had somewhere about 110 players who played in the big leagues this year. And the HarbourCats alone, we were 34 players who played professional baseball this year. So guys who are knocking on the door, and we've had 4 guys now playing the big leagues. Nathan Lucas with the Blue Jays, up and down with them all year long as an outfielder. He was our player of the year in 2014, my first year in the league. So, but you know what? We actually have season ticket holders who come in every year and renew their season tickets in Victoria and say to us, we really don't like the baseball, but we love coming to your games.
Oh my gosh.
So that to us is very important. And we have a food truck mentality. We have 5 to 6 food trucks. We have different options. You don't have to come to a HarbourCats game 27 times a summer and have the same hot dog 27 times. You don't. There's Greek on the Street, Cupperoni, amazing food truck. Domino's Pizza is there. We got L'Authentique Poutine. We've got Beaver Tails. I mean, all these guys are there, and we have some rotating that come in on here and there basis. And local craft beer, you can have a Molson if you'd like, but you can have a Red Arrow Ballpark Blonde that's named after our team. So we like our Ballpark Blondes. They're good. They're tasty. It's like I said earlier, baseball is just unoffensive, and it's not testosterone based. It's not, and I'm a former junior hockey player. I played football when I was a kid. I played a lot of baseball, of course, but I get the allure of those sports. But I think the thing about baseball that sets it apart is summer, outdoors, sunshine,
100%,
and just the relaxed atmosphere. And here's the one thing. I just talked about recruiting and working at trying to win a championship. And 3 times in the last 5 seasons, the HarbourCats have lost in the very last game. Damn it. I mean, it's just drives us nuts when we think about it every time. We're so close. And one team has won it all those years, which is driving the rest of the league nuts. So we've been the closest of anybody. But the thing is, I can't guarantee that my team's going to play well.
Sure.
I can't. They're 18 to 22-year-old young men. 100%. And we had a young lady one year. We're the first team ever to have a female player. We did in 2017-18 with Claire Eccles. The young men, for the most part, they're going to have off days. We had a player last year, one of our top players went into a slump, and we're like, what is going on? His girlfriend broke up with him. Oh my God. Life hit him a little bit, right? He was through some stuff. His mind was in another place. We didn't know. He didn't tell us until we asked and said, hey buddy, you okay? And so we go through that. But what I can control is that the music's great. The entertainment factors between innings are interesting and funny, and get a laugh out of people, and people win prizes and go home with something, and that they just have a good time. And we call it Disneyland, because if you go to Disneyland and you leave at the end of the day at Disneyland and you're not had a good day, and a little, Disneyland maybe more tired than anything else, but if you leave Disneyland, you're not happy, like Disneyland didn't do its job. Right. And so that's the way we feel about it. When we say goodbye to people at the end of the night at the gates as they leave, and if somebody's not happy, and it's very rare that it happens, it did happen once this year that we noted, but that in one case, but not going to go there. But you know what? People are just excited to be at a place that is relaxing. They can put things on the side. We want them to put their phones away. Put your phones in your pockets. You don't need to look at Google right now. You don't need to watch that stuff. So
just watch the game. I love it.
Watch the game. Enjoy. If you like a beer, have a beer. If you don't like beer, have something else. There's something cool to drink, and enjoy it. And that's really our job, is to make it so that people don't necessarily. There's actually been studies that say minor league baseball, the vast majority of people, I can't remember the numbers, go to a minor league baseball game. They don't remember who the team played, and they don't remember if you won or lost, and frankly don't care.
That's
but we do have a faction of our fans that certainly do care, and we care about that too. We won a championship. I don't have a championship ring in this league yet, and I want one. So
Fair enough. So Jim, as we wrap up, can you share what's next? Like, what's exciting developments, initiatives? What's this year looking like? What are some things that you can share?
Yeah, I mean, bidding on the All-Star game, I think is one of those,
Okay.
and then in Victoria, it's funny, it's great, man. Timely question. I spent about an hour and a half last week. I just went for a walk to the ballpark, and I walked around, and I'm just looking at anything that we can do to continue to improve. We've done a front row of seats that cost us a lot of money. That's added a really huge value for what I'll call our whales, right? Or use the Vegas term, our big customers are down there. We put a deck on down the third baseline, the Strathcona rooftop party deck. That Strathcona, Grant, and those guys have been amazing in their support for us. Talk about ongoing relationships. We got the double-decker bus at the games, which is just so much fun as a party spot.
That's awesome.
We got 2 of those spots, and what we haven't. And part of it's going to have to come in partnership with the city. We haven't really come up with a kind of a next, change to the ballpark, because we kind of think we have it dialed in right now. And then I think coming out of COVID, we need to have one more season before we decide something else. In Nanaimo, we have a lot of things that we can continue to do. We're just 2 years in there. Things that we can grow with, and things that can get better and even more fun. And it's just about continuing to focus on our customers, focus on our fans, focus on what they enjoy, and do more of it, and really make it so that somebody else in the league this last year said HarbourCats, it's about an event. And it was actually another in where we lost our championship this year. The announcer during that game said, going to a HarbourCats game in Victoria, it's not a game, it's an event. And I appreciated that. It was nice to hear that. And I think in our league, I think we're unique in that factor, and that we treat the baseball with respect, right? And then we have a lot of fun outside the baseball. The baseball is all, we have to have good baseball, but we can 100%. Have a lot of fun outside of it. So
that's amazing. Well, Jim, thank you for it's been a pleasure chatting with you. I'm sure there's a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about. We'll have to have you back on maybe at the end of next season, when you can show us your ring that you won.
I like that. And you know what, Rob, not just you, but anybody ever wants to talk about this, me and my staff this is what we do. We enjoy doing it. We're lucky. I get to do baseball on Vancouver Island. It's a pretty good thing. It's not a bad deal at all. So.
Love it. Well, Jim, thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your journey insights. And for people that haven't maybe taken in a game, check the website out. Schedule will be out soon. Go check it out. Great entertainment. Like Jim said, I've been to games and both in Kamloops, Kelowna, and Victoria. So it's I've experienced and it's a great night out or a day game, and just so I encourage everyone to experience it for sure. But thank you, Jim, for I think sports is super important in community. I really do. I think it brings community together, and so thank you for everything you've done, because I'm sure it hasn't been easy along the way. So thank you for sharing some insight this morning. Awesome.
There you go.
Thanks, Jim. Everyone else,
have
a great rest of your day, and thank you for tuning into Business Matters. Thanks, Jim.
We would like to thank our sponsor, Island Savings. Island Savings, a division of member-owned cooperative First West Credit Union, provides banking, borrowing, and investment services for residents and businesses across Vancouver Island and the Southern Gulf Islands. Island Savings brings innovative products, an extensive branch network, and local decision-making to the banking experience.